I'm Chrissy Marsack-Topolewski. I'm an associate professor of social work, researcher, and gerontologist. I'm going to talk for a few moments here today about social isolation and loneliness amongst our older adult populations. When we think about social isolation and loneliness in general, across the United States, regardless of age demographic, we are looking at a large prevalence of the population who is experiencing this currently. Right? So U.S. Surgeon General in March of 2023 came out with a report talking about social isolation and loneliness as being a public health crisis, as being a public health concern. Why? When we think about the different health ramifications, both physically and mentally, these are profound. So for example, individuals who are experiencing social isolation and loneliness are at a greater risk for things like obesity, diabetes, premature mortality. From a mental health perspective, things like anxiety and depression are pervasive. Cognitively, right? Increased risk for dementia, and all sorts of other things when we start to even think about some mobility risks and increased risk for falls and fractures and so on. For our older adult population, while the numbers and the percentages are going to look different across the lifespan, we're looking somewhere around 30% of population, of that older adult population. And this is going to vary based on kind of those age cohorts and those subcategories as we look and take a more granular look into what that might look like for those specific individuals. But as a whole, one thing to kind of think about is these different risk factors that are often unique for our older adult populations, right? As their social networks shrink, right? They might have different opportunities or more limited opportunities to connect due to, friends, families, and so forth moving or dying and so on. For older adults to even connect with the world, sometimes there are some different things. So if somebody's experiencing some sensory implications, for example, perhaps some hearing impairment, which is very, very common in our older adult population, this is going to make it harder to connect and harder to connect in a meaningful way. For individuals who might have mobility concerns, maybe just getting out of the house is harder, or maybe they're experiencing frequent kind of chronic pain or health implications that are really contributing to some reasons that they can't connect with their everyday community in the same ways. For others, perhaps they were driving and they were able to kind of get around in different ways. And as time has gone on, whether it be because of physical reasons or financial reasons, or from a mobility standpoint or a cognitive standpoint, maybe they no longer have access to their own car and can't get around in the community in that same way, which is also one of those contributing factors when we start to think about those unique reasons that our older adults might face social isolation and loneliness. So just some things to think about as we think about how do we continue to serve as a bridge and an avenue and a channel to really deliver humanistic care and think about these other aspects and these other elements that are really important to overall health and well-being.